Hello and welcome to TOK Creative. I'm your host PREETI GAUTAM. Today we have someone who does wonderful work but doesn't like to be in limelight. She don't portray her works anywhere on the social handles, but she works in believing quietly. So let's welcome Sara Abdullah. We begin with questions. Okay. So, ma'am, how and when CEQUIN started?
Actually, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. Well, not just, I think time is going and one isn't realizing. Last year, it started off as it wasn't a deliberate decision. I actually worked for the UN at the time it was called UNIFEM, which is the women's branch of the United Nations.
Okay.
And it was there that I really had that very deep interest in women's issues, and I was able to see the difference that organizations can make in the lives of others. However, while the UN experience was something that I'm eternally grateful for, because the way that they train and inculcate very solid ways of working, I felt rather too removed from the women and the girls whom we were trying to assist, help, provide different opportunities for. I used to really enjoy when we went on our visits to go and meet them and to talk to them, but those were, a few times in a year.
Yeah.
So then what happened was that there was another friend of mine who also worked there, Laura Prabhu, and in a very organic way, we used to discuss the possibility of starting our own organization. And that kind of grew and we brainstormed, and one fine day we said, right, this is it. We are going to launch CEQUIN, which is not CEQUIN officially. It is the Center for Equity and Inclusion. And so that is how CEQUIN came about.
And what was the motive of starting CEQUIN?
It really was to make a difference, to help those who maybe need assistance, to change their lives. Understanding that not everybody has the opportunities that I did or Laura did or many girls and women across the world do. And yet it's through no fault of their own. It is, by accident of birth, that somebody is born somewhere and someone is born somewhere else, and maybe for me it was not even a discussion as to whether I would go to school or whether I would stay on in school, and whether I would have opportunities to work, to earn a livelihood. But that isn't the story for everybody, and therefore the question was that what can we do to enable them to have opportunities, for them to live a life that is also full and happy, and not a life that goes by without those kind of opportunities to live that full life.
Okay, so ma'am, basically CEQUIN works for female, like women equality and children, right?
That's right. We work for women's equality, children. We work with men and boys also, but our goal is the empowerment of women and girls.
Okay. So when, I'm based in Delhi, and when we talk in a friend circle or in a society, people feel things have changed and, it's not like what it was 30 years back. But even now, there are stories, there are incidents which you get shattered listening to. So when it is happening in NCR, it would be very, very bad, or it would be like really miserable in the interior part of India, right? So how can we really, change in terms of changing the entire nation? I know it is not easy when we talk about nation, but somewhere we need to begin with.
Yes, absolutely. I think the challenges are different in different places. It's not to say that in the cities it is easy. Sometimes it can be harder because you have women who come here as migrants, families, for example, and they don't have any support system.
Right.
It's back down to this very small nuclear family, and the burden of the house and also earning a living is on the woman. It's not that she is in a village where she may have, many other members of the family at home to assist, for example, with other things. So then what happens is that this burden also falls upon usually the older girls in that family,
Right.
because if the mother is out all day, then who is going to look after the other siblings? And that's not also to say that in the village it's a perfect arrangement. It's not to say that you don't have violence against women, or that the women are so free to do what they want because they live with 5 other family members. That's not what I'm saying. But that the challenges are different given each scenario. And yes, I agree that it's not something that I or anybody can wave a magic wand and across the country things will change. Which is why I also very deliberately took that decision that Laura and I would start first in Delhi, then we grew to Mewat and Haryana, and now we do a little bit in parts of UP and Rajasthan, because I felt that the work that we do should be done in a very dedicated, committed, and deep way. Otherwise, it's also, very easy to be able to say that, oh, I work in all these states and I work across the country. But for us, we were very particular that whatever it was we did, however small or however big, there was going to be that interaction between us and the people that we were working with, and that whatever was going to be done was going to be done at our best ability. So we have grown slowly and organically. And I think that certain mindsets, yes, they are changing. The world is not the same, life is not the same. Now, with access to the internet, now with everything being, what is happening in America, that is what people aspire to in India, which is another topic, but that's sad. I feel, what we have is also wonderful.
Absolutely.
Um, but that women and girls are now, after so many decades of independence, that they have reached the point where they deserve to be, that they have all their rights in place, is not true at all.
Right. So, ma'am, as you mentioned that family is a backbone. Like in rural parts, you have bigger, you have many family members to look after and things like that. What if family, the girl of a family is getting troubled by someone, and if she comes and if she complains to a family that I've been getting troubled or maybe misbehaved, and family says that you please, this happens a lot because I've seen and I've been grown and born and brought up in the city. So parents themselves say to their daughter, listen, you will not go out. It's, you stay in and you please don't discuss about it to anyone. So how do we change that? Because, parents are certainly, they are attached to their daughter. They are not saying that because, I think it's a burden of a pressure of a society of log kya kahenge. So they want to stay away from that part. And for the same reason, they want their daughter to not to move out and be home and safe. But that's not the solution. It's not a
No,
permanent
no,
solution. Yeah.
no. That is why in CEQUIN, we very deliberately, for example, didn't go down the line of self-defense classes and providing pepper spray. Because for us, it is not putting the onus on the girl, and we work with the community in a totality. So we will sit and have discussions with the religious heads of that community, for example. We work with the family. So it may even be something like a health camp where both the husbands or the fathers and the mothers and the brothers, they all come and they get to have a feel also of the organization, which is important because there needs to be that trust. Then we work with the girls, of course, and it may be something like our football project. That is a flagship program, and you're probably thinking, well, what does this got to do with the question that I've asked? The link is that when these girls, from a young age, have an opportunity to come out of their homes and they develop skills which they otherwise wouldn't have, physically also, emotionally, mentally, because they have a support system outside the home. They focus, they concentrate, their skills and abilities of even thinking goes up hugely, and they realize that there's more to life than perhaps has been promised them previously. So we recently conducted a study with our football girls, and because we really wanted to see what is the impact. And so many of them said that yes, we're happy to get married, but we will only marry somebody who lets us work and go out for our jobs, and is the kind of partner that I want to see as my life partner, as opposed to just marrying somebody who is not going to allow me those freedoms. So that change also comes from an early age. So then that girl is not going to accept marrying somebody who would be violent. Also, what happens is that we work with the boys and the men in the community. Again, without involving men and boys in this conversation, we cannot go very far.
Absolutely.
The only way, again, to come back to your question, to deal with these issues is when you have men and boys within the family, within the society, within the community, who are sensitized and who will say, no, this is not okay. As a brother, to stand up for his sister and say, no, if my sister is saying that this is what is happening and she is unhappy, I will go. And again, we are not saying that our goal and end result is that everything should end in divorce and things. It's not that. But even if within the family, you can go, you have those conversations, that can change things. And we've seen it. It does change things. So it's something that one has to work at a multi-level. It's not enough that you just take the girls and you sensitize them. What is to sensitize? If somebody is hitting you, you know it's not okay. You feel it's not okay. But it is, as you said, it's about the society. It's about understanding that no society can also flourish if you have your women and girls not being a part of it, whether it's financially. So if there's a family, my wife or my daughter is not going out there and not earning a livelihood, which she could, she's then also not contributing to the house. Or if she's not educated, again, she's not contributing, or she won't be able to teach her children further. So also that understanding needs to be there, that a healthy and a happy girl and a woman actually benefits everybody in the society.
Absolutely. So, ma'am, a few years back, I saw one of your play in Australian High Commission where a boy is portraying as a female. And he's going through all the violence and all the difficulties a female go. And there was a part when he showed that a uterus is free to produce anything. So when the moment a lady or a female conceive, there are perception or there are demands or there are certain things which comes up in in-laws mind or your spouse that it has to be a boy, so it is not in a female hand. And I was more surprised, okay, a husband being little partial that he wants a boy, or in-laws being partial that they want a grandson for the family, but even a mother is looking forward to have a son. How do we? This was like, it was. I was not able to digest that because you are producing. Doesn't matter what gender are you producing. I think it is more important to have a child physically and mentally fine, besides whatever the gender is. So how do we go about it? Even now, at this my generation, I'm talking about our age people. They have this perception that हमें तो लड़का ही चाहिए.
But I think that's the issue with patriarchy, that it is not that the villains are the men and the boys, and that the girls and the boys and the men are the villains and the women and the girls are the victims. Because actually, when you have something like patriarchy, which has gone down through the ages and through the generations, then society is based around that. So a woman, if she knows that the child that she produces is the child is not going to be, and this is what we see, either the child is murdered, frankly, once it's born. If it's a girl, they will murder that child. Right. If it gets lucky, I mean, it might even be murdered as the fetus. And then they also know that if it's a girl, she won't be given food as the boy would be. She would not be sent to school. She wouldn't, again, all those opportunities would not be there. On top of that, you have violence. On top of that, you know that, oh my gosh, if I have a girl, then I'll have to always be very worried that, from the relatives to anybody, they might, abuse her. And then, oh gosh, when she gets married, how are we going to afford that dowry or those gifts and that lavish wedding that we are requiring? So again, then as a woman, plus she is often targeted by the husband or the in-laws if she has a girl. So it's not that, yes, you're right, every woman who has a baby loves that baby regardless of whether it is a boy or a girl. Once that child is in your arms, it is your child. It's not about the gender. But the thing is that all this plays on the mind of that person when they have a child. And therefore, that male preference is not just that the man or the head of the family wants a man. This male preference is so embedded in everybody that is what needs to change. That understanding and that knowledge that actually having a girl is just as good, just as wonderful, and not a burden on your family as having a boy. But you see, again, until things like dowry, these kind of cultural issues are not dealt with, it'll just be something that's said, ha ha, beti, of course, beti to pyari hai. But what does it mean?
Yeah. So, ma'am, we have laws right now. We have, I think it has been for many years that now the girl shares an equal portion or a part in inheriting parents' property, right? But still, when it comes to giving, they would emotionally go down parents so that the girl, doesn't take her part or portion or whatever. So, but deep in heart, the girl feels that this is not about financially, or it's not helping her financially or materialistically. It's about getting my right. If I lose my right here, then I will be always sacrificing my everything. So, do you feel it is important to it is important to put your point or put your views to your parents? Because at times parents might also feel that my daughter is they will have all emotional blackmail going on, that listen, you are the daughter of a family, we did so much, and you are now asking about your things. So how do we deal with it? Because it's not easy to go against your own parents, and especially when it comes emotionally, and so, but I feel it is important to put your views and put your rights, because if you lose here, then you will be losing all your life on every
I
step.
agree.
And this
Absolutely.
is yes. So how do we deal with that?
And I think that is why, isn't it about an attitude? Isn't it also about realizing that in life, nothing comes easy?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry to have to say it. And it would, of course, in an ideal world, everybody should get what they are entitled to, and the girls should get as much, and the boys should get as much, and everybody, it should be equal. But we don't live in an ideal world. And I think that we are doing a disservice also to children. I mean, not just girls, boys also, to give them this understanding that, oh, everything is going to fall into your lap and everything is easy and you don't have to fight for anything. Now, when I say fight, I don't mean be so destructive and be so angry and be rude and be mean. No. But in life, there are going to be times where you have to stand up for yourself, because everybody around you wants you to be that weak, head down, not stand up for yourself. It suits them, unfortunately. Therefore, it's also very important to be able to be smart enough and to realize what is it you're asking for. You should know. If you know that what you are asking for is not unfair, it's not wrong, that it is what you are entitled to. If somebody has given birth to you, whether they can give you a cardboard box or a palace, it doesn't matter. But the point is that they decided to have one child of 5 children or 2 children, whether it is a boy or a girl, as we've established and discussed, the love is love. Your child is your child. And therefore, that communication, then if the parents are for whatever reason not able to see this for themselves, then the girls again need to be smart enough as to how they communicate it with their parents. It doesn't have to be that it's going to be so nasty.
Yeah.
Maybe it is just that conversation where you sit down and you say, I know you love me and I know you would want me to be secure. And I know it's not that you love Bhaiya more than you love me. And so let's sit down and go through this in such a way that you know that I am going to be taken care of and that everything is equal. I'm not asking for more.
Right. But it's important to speak your mind, right?
It is important to have these conversations.
Okay. So, ma'am, you believe in talking about realities of life to children at a very early age, right? Like to tell them.
It needs to be discussed, at an appropriate age, let's say. It's not that a 8-year-old girl, it's going to be appropriate for her to sit down with her parents and talk about, inheritance and land rights and things. But again, at that age, there can be that understanding of you are not inferior, that you are a person. First and foremost, you are an individual.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you want to go out and play, then you can request your parents that, padhai ho gayi now, I want to go out and play with my friends for a while.
Right.
So everything happens at an age and stage in life. And so girls also should be given those same opportunities depending on what age and stage of life they are at.
Okay. So, ma'am, CEQUIN believes in talking about harsh realities which even children have to go through. When you speak to them, so don't you think when they hear about the harsh realities of what is happening around, kills their innocence because that way they always have some kind of scaredness in their mind.
Well, I think the issue is more that children know more than, we give them credit for. So if children are living in an area where there are, 8, 10 family members in one room and, the same across and up and down, is it possible that any child is not aware of what is happening?
Yes,
it's not that we are going in and telling them, like you say, the harsh realities of awful things that happen in the world. It's not that, but it's about giving them a space to be able to talk about something that they may be facing and feeling anxious about. It's not that I have to go in there and tell them that, okay, now today let's talk about rape. Now let's today talk about sexual harassment. Again, it's about giving them that space to be able to come and just talk about things that may be troubling them. And then as you go through and then as they are older, they read newspapers, even if they don't see it themselves, that in themselves troubles. And so then if they don't have an outlet to be able to discuss that, then what happens? Then that fear that you're talking about also makes things much worse. Whereas if they can have a space where you come to people and you discuss that, oh, this thing happened to my friend, my aunt went through this, everybody will have cases and stories. Even if it didn't happen to me, I will know of people that, oh, my friend had to drop out of school, she was forced to get married at 14. Yeah. So actually, talking to them about issues that people face, they are already very clued in. They know much more than any of us what goes on, on the ground level. But being able to explain it to them in a way and also then give them the tools to deal with things as and when and if they do face it, that is what they need.
Okay. So, ma'am, there are a lot of times when children feel scared and to even talk to their parents thinking, what if I speak my mind, if I tell what I'm thinking, my parents would not like, or they may be shocked that how am I thinking like that? So I know because I teach theatre to young children, and there are times when children talks to me and says, "Ma'am, can I share this? Please do not tell it to my parents." And I'm happy at least they have this faith on me that they can share their secrets with me. So how do we change that? I know not everyone is exposed to theatre because I know theatre is something which inculcates, which first it makes you go through every step of life in different characters when you become. It gives you better vision. But how can we inculcate or inhibit things in children where they don't feel scared or ashamed talking to their family members?
That's where, again, that contact in the community by an NGO like CEQUIN, for example, really helps. because when we do this football camp, let's say, the girls come, we have 5 days where we talk to them, and they not only do football training, but then there are conversations about all these kind of issues as well. Also, what we do is then on the last day of all the camps, we call in the parents. So then we sit and we talk to the parents also about, it might just be a conversation over chai. It's not that you're sitting and lecturing, because people don't like that.
Yeah.
But it is that they also need to have an understanding that you are on their side. And these relationships between NGOs and people and communities do not come overnight. It takes a lot of hard work and effort. But then when there's a trust that is built up, if one of my community members, and in conversation with one of these football girls, for example, if she says to them that, I'm going through this, I'm very disturbed, I'm very troubled, I'm scared, and I don't know what to do because I don't know how to myself go and approach this, then our community members can hold her hand and find the relevant and the right person within the family to go and speak to and see if a resolution can be come to, without it being an attack, without it being a threat. Then it is just that I am a well-wisher of the family. You have seen me. I know your daughter. She's unhappy. Let's see what we can do to help. Then it is well received. If you go in as though you're going to attack somebody and you are blaming them and then they have to defend themselves, it's not going to help that girl. That's not the solution.
Absolutely. So, ma'am, CEQUIN believes in working quietly. I haven't seen CEQUIN really portraying their work on social media, or they are looking forward to have a limelight. Why that's so? Because in today's world, people would do 1% and they would portray, I would say, 50%. Whereas in your case, is absolutely opposite, So yes,
That's something that we have taken on board, and things are changing now. Especially for us during this lockdown, we've had a lot of different work to do, and it's been very good because I think, yes, for us, our motto was always that, okay, if this is 100% and we should do 100%, and maybe or 2% out of that we will put towards our brochure, which is when we started. It was, it wasn't about Instagram and Facebook and things like that our focus should be on our work.
absolutely.
But over the years, we have also realized that people would like to know more about our work. People do like to know more about CEQUIN, and the only way that we can grow, and if we talk about these issues, like you were saying, the only way that we can help people think and notice and realize these issues is if we are out there on the social media platform. So now we have a very lively Instagram account and Facebook, and we share stories of the people that we work with, and we have a bunch of interns who have been helping us out with this. And so I think that in that way things are changing for CEQUIN, because we have put a lot more information out there, and we realize that if there's no point doing the work that we do if we're not communicating it.
Absolutely.
You see, so that is something that for us has been a learning, and we certainly now are bridging those gaps and giving people all the information, because there's so many interesting stories and it's so much fun. Right. It brings you out your own little life and maybe the things that otherwise you would think about, and it puts you in a place that you realize that, oh, this is there also.
Yeah. So, ma'am, how do you balance your work and family? Because this is a kind of work where you really have to be engaged, I would say, most of the time. So, how do you really balance it? Because with working mothers, it gets difficult so many times. Working mothers say that I am not able to pay right time or right attention to my children, and whereas they can't leave job because it's not easy to run a family with one person earning. So, how do we balance it? Do you really feel that we should make children independent in terms of they should be able to manage their own things themselves and look out for a quality time when a mother comes back? Even an hour, if you give a quality time, I would say that's enough than just giving them bits and pieces in 10 hours.
I agree. I mean, I think this whole thing about, that whether it's a mother or a father, is supposed to be home with their children 24/7, and only then will the child grow up as a well-rounded individual is not true. I mean, in my experience, and maybe it's also I grew up in a family where all the women in the family were busy, and they were all professionals, and we never felt that we are neglected as children. I think that yes, sure, when you're a baby or a woman has to breastfeed her child, or when the children are very small, it's different. It's a different kind of an input that they need. But as they grow up, I do think that the best thing you can do for your children is to give them that skill of independence. And of course, they should know how loved they are and that you are always there for them if you need them. But I think just physically being in a home and then maybe being on your phone all the time and watching your serials, and I mean, how is that helping the child? Then you may as well be out at work or doing something you enjoy. It may also be a hobby that you enjoy. And then, as you said, when you are with your children, then that means something. They appreciate the time that they have with you. You appreciate the time that you have with them. And there isn't this constant guilt, because why should you feel guilty? You again, going back to that same thing, that you are an individual. Before you were a wife, before you were a mother, you are a person. So you also deserve to live your life. Of course, take care of your duties. As a mother, you have a duty to your child. There's no two ways about that. So you must fulfill your duties. But I think there are enough hours in the day to be able to fulfill your duties to your children or to your spouse, and also to yourself, which may be going out and earning a livelihood, or it may be, playing a sport if that's your hobby, or whatever it is.
So, ma'am, how easy or how difficult it is to get in touch with CEQUIN if someone wants to get in touch for a help or for advice? So, how people can get in touch with?
It's very easy. You can just Google CEQUIN, and on our website you have, contact us. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So yeah, we're always happy to hear from people, whether they'd like to volunteer or intern, or they have certain concerns that they would need some help with.
Okay. Last question of the day. Indian parents believe in hitting their children to discipline them. Is it right or wrong?
I don't think physical violence, in fact, it's not that I don't think physical violence is not acceptable, whether it's parent to child or, spouse between spouses or anything like that. So physical violence is never the answer. If you're asking me that if a child does something and, you just tap them lightly on their back or something, that is just, so again, it's about understanding. Are you hurting somebody? Absolutely. And what is that violence is violence. And yet a mother just kind of telling her child off, like, stop it, if they're about to pick up something hot, for example, and I just do this to my son so that he doesn't. I mean, yes, technically I've hit him, and therefore if you're getting into it, then it's violence. But is it? But I mean, I think across the board, hitting, violence is never the answer. And that is certainly something that when I told you that we work a lot with men and boys, is that this is a very important conversation to have, because they grow up seeing that this is the norm. That, oh, well, I've seen that if my father gets angry with my mother, then he hits her if she doesn't do what he wants her to do, or if she makes a mistake, then this is the normal way to behave. And to have those conversations with them that actually it's not normal, it's not okay, and there are many ways of dealing with that same situation without resorting to this.
Absolutely. That's because I've seen in families where father hits a mother, and if a boy sees that my father is hitting a mother, at times even boys stop respecting mother, because he feels that the earning member of the family is my father. Eventually, he's the one who is taking decision. So it's female who's been getting suppressed or getting affected by all the ways. So basically, you need to have a healthy and a kind atmosphere at home, right?
You do. And it's for all members of the family to flourish. We are not saying here that we want the boys to be sitting very depressed and the girls are empowered. We want that all members of the family should have that same equality, the same freedom, the same choices open to them, so that they all can participate in life in a very happy and full manner.
Absolutely. So, ma'am, is there any advice you would like to give to young children and to the women of the society?
I think my advice to girls is, as we discussed, that be brave, be strong. Life is not always easy. You may have to go out and change things up a little bit, but it's worth it. You can do it. Have faith in yourself. And I think to boys and to other members of the family, I would say that people are people. So deal with people as not as a girl, not as a woman, not as a wife, not as all those roles, but as a person and how you would want to be treated. So if you would like to have the freedom to be able to go to school and go to college or do a job which is maybe 1 hour away from your house, then help your sister or help your mother to also have those same choices. Really treat others as you would want to be treated, and then I think life would be really good.
Absolutely. So that was Mrs. Sara Pilot Abdullah, founder of CEQUIN. As she said, it's us who can change the society. So it's important to stand for right things, to raise our voice for all the wrong things happening in the society, and never be scared, never get feared for right things. So let's all stand together for the betterment of the society. Thank you.